What's up, everybody? It's your boy Joshua Edwards, live from Brooklyn, New York. This is Joshua's Proximity. Now, look, I'm still in the process of getting my graphics together, but this episode is the opening episode of this new season, man. Look forward to it. You guys know that I work for the New York Mets now. So yeah, this is where I'm at. I actually coach football on the side as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Now, there's been a huge situation this past weekend with the whole draft process. Now, if you don't know who this guy on the screen is, his name is Shedeur Sanders. Now, the thing with Shedeur Sanders is when he was projected to come out into the draft, which happened this past weekend, he was a projected first-round talent, and that was across a lot of NFL draft guys. So guys that were actually out here recruiting and saying exactly where he was going to go. Mel Kiper had him going in the first round. And if you know what happened to him, this is probably one of the biggest draft woes in NFL history. You know about Aaron Rodgers and how he went from a projected number 1 overall pick to the 24th pick. But nobody had Shedeur Sanders fall into where he fell. He went from the first round to the 5th round. This guy was an NFL prospect that was supposed to go in the first round. His dad is the Hall of Fame Deion Sanders. We all know exactly about him. But he ended up falling behind guys like a Dylan Gabriel, a guy like a Tyler Show, who I've never even heard of, coming out of Louisville. Nobody really thought Dylan Gabriel was above Shedeur Sanders. Nobody damn sure thought Tyler Show was above Shedeur Sanders. At worst, guys had this dude going. He was at worst the third best quarterback, and he went after Jalen Milroe. He went after Dylan Gabriel. He went after Tyler Show, and this is not a guy that was projected to go this late. At worst, teams had him as the third worst quarterback in this draft. So what does this show me? Now, if you follow me on Twitter, I made a recent TikTok video on this whole situation. Collusion at its best. When you look at everything that he has meant to the Colorado program, he set record there. He was a first-team all Pac-12 at the quarterback position, or Big 12, whatever conference they're in now. He was a guy who was not a second-team All-American. If I'm not mistaken, I think he probably was the second-team All-American quarterback. He was a guy, he didn't work out at the NFL Combine. He didn't work out at the Senior Bowl. I understand that. But what does the tape say? Are y'all going to really, for a lack of better words, are you going to shit on him so bad that you're not willing to draft him because of who his dad is? You're not willing to draft him because of the chain and the flash and the backwards hat that he's wearing in his NFL scouting combine? Now, I do understand that people with the New York Giants said he had an awful meeting with the New York Giants, and I'm okay with that. But one interview should not dictate 31 other NFL teams. I'm sorry. If y'all told me he bombed every interview that he went into, okay, I can get that. But the New York Giants, okay, so what? That's one team. What about the Pittsburgh Steelers, who said they had a very well interview process with him? Why the hell the Steelers didn't take him? At some point, we got to look at collusion at the highest level. And obviously, it's not going to be talked about because you're not going to find any text messages. You're not going to find any phone calls. But it's one of those things where, like you and your homeboy link eyes with a baddie, like, hey, bro, like, hey, what's up? It was one of those situations where teams just didn't want to pick Shedeur Sanders because they, quote unquote, thought he was a locker room hazard, or he would bring certain baggage, or whatever they want to say. That was the one word that I kept hearing on Twitter. He brings baggage. What type of baggage? I have never heard of him being a terrible teammate. I've never heard any reports of him being a bad leader in the locker room. What baggage? The swag? So what? I damn sure want my quarterback to be arrogant to a certain extent. Aaron Rodgers was. Now Josh Rosen was, but he was ass. Yeah, that's a whole nother situation, but why not? I think that this will go down as one of the biggest misses in NFL draft history, possibly. Now, this next situation, I don't want to talk about too much, because there's a lot of things that's going on, but I will talk about it. Now, Shannon Sharpe has been in the headlines for some sexual allegations. You guys know how I feel about Unc. Unc is one of those trailblazers for a guy like me. He was really one of those people that made me want to start this podcast. He was one of those guys that was like, okay, I see him talking about sports. I see the type of passion, the energy that he brings. I see what he means to the community and just sports in general. Now, the whole situation with Unc, I will say this. Shannon Sharpe, you're about 60 years old, man. I understand the girl that you are, you've been in relations with is now the age of 21. But at 50 and 60 years old, you should not be dating or messing with somebody that is the age of your children. I'm sorry. That's just the way that I look at it. The same could be said about Drea Mitchell and her relationship with Jalen Green. The same could be said with Bill Belichick and his relationship with his woman. This right here is a sad situation. Now, whether he has done it or not, nobody knows. It will obviously be brought to in front of a judge in a civil lawsuit, and I hope that he is clear of all charges, clear of any fines, clear of any money that he has to spend or any settlement that he has to reach. But it is a sad situation. When you look at the black community and you just think of just older men in general, they should not be messing with these young women. I'm sorry. Respectfully, if you want to mess with the OnlyFans woman or a porn star, go get somebody that's relatively around your age. There are a handful of porn stars that's not under the age of 26. There are a handful of porn stars that are over the age of 30. For you to mess with a younger woman, I think that it's going to be talked about, and it should be talked about to a certain extent, but not too long. Regardless of, we don't know exactly the outcome of what's being stated right now. I would just say this. It's just a sad situation because we know what Shannon Sharpe means to the black community. We know what he means to the sporting industry as a whole. And just to see this hit the forefront before the NFL draft, hit the forefront before you are about to sign that $100 million contract is just a terrible, terrible feat. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. Now, I do want to talk about my Carolina Panthers. Now, you know that we signed Ted McMillan. You know that we signed Jimmy Horn. My team is going above 500 this year. I've been talking about it when I was on Panthers Pride. I talked about it on my TikToks. Ted McMillan was the way to go. And I'm glad Dan Morgan made the decision to get Bryce Young the weapons. If you go back and you look at his last 5 games, I know it's a small sample size, but his last 5 games, Bryce Young turned it around. He was better than C.J. Stroud. He was a top 3 quarterback percentage-wise during that time frame. If you look at his touchdowns, 5-touchdown game against the Atlanta Falcons, he went bonkers. And now you added Ted McMillan. We all know Xavier Legette, currently speaking, is known more for his words than his play. So I think that just as we continue just to move forward, like I said, I'm going to have more graphics. This is just kind of just on the spot right now. But as we continue just to go through this entire process, you're going to see Bryce Young take that next step, and you're going to see the Carolina Panthers ultimately become above a 500 and possibly even a playoff team this season.